So I'm going to talk to you today, as Emma said, about building your brand. And this is such an important area of your marketing and business strategy as well. And from my experience working for colleges, universities and schools, this is the most neglected area of any piece of marketing team that I see. So throughout this presentation, I've included quite a lot of content for you. We've got a couple of practical examples, but hopefully by the end of the presentation, you will feel a little more confident defining your distinctive brand strategy, or at least going back to your institutions, working with your marketing teams to actually lead them through that strategic piece. You will hopefully understand how to craft content that really connects with your audiences. In today's world, connecting with your audiences is incredibly important and probably the most challenging thing that you will face as a marketing team or as an institution. There is so much noise out there. The landscape is so crowded, really difficult to be seen and be heard, and people don't want to be sold to anymore. You will know we're all consumers. We all buy things. We buy cars, we buy phones, we buy education courses. We don't want to be sold to anymore. We want authentic content that really resonates. So I'm going to talk a little bit about showing up with confidence and consistency across your marketing channels, and you'll just leave with some practical frameworks as well. You've got a handout, so we'll be referring to that throughout, and hopefully by the end of the session you'll be able to use the slides and the handout to actually go back to your institutions feeling more confident in this area. So before I introduce myself and just give you a little 1-minute highlight of me, does anyone feel confident about their brand strategy currently? So do you want to put your hand up if this is an area you feel you've mastered? Okay, brilliant. This is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Does anyone feel kind of in the middle, that maybe they've somewhat mastered it, but they don't feel confident it's quite there? Yeah, a few of you feel like that. Brilliant, okay. And I'm assuming that the rest of you feel a little bit unconfident in this area, and perhaps it's an area you haven't really looked at. Would I be right to assume that? Okay, fantastic. So this is great. And there's no right or wrong. Institutions are always on different journeys, different stages of their business strategies and their marketing strategies. And it's a constant, ongoing continuation. So values need refreshing, marketing strategies need refreshing, because audiences are always changing in terms of their motivations and pain points. So a little bit about me. I've had 20 years in education marketing, mainly the higher education sector. And the higher education sector in the UK is very much leading in terms of best practice. It's incredibly competitive, as many of you probably know. A lot of creativity goes into marketing and branding in the higher education sector. I've also worked for colleges and schools as well, so I have that experience across that education mix. I've got a very strong track record of delivering brands. So I'm a generalist marketing strategist and campaign manager, but my passion and where I really add that value is brand strategy. And this, as I said, is a piece that most organisations I move into as part of contracting and freelance work have missed as part of their marketing, and therefore they're not achieving as much as they could be. I'm Chartered Institute of Marketing qualified, so I understand marketing leadership and strategy, and I've so far won 7 national Havas Heist Awards for marketing innovation, and those awards are mainly for kind of brand reputational campaigns. A few of the brands I've worked for, as Emma mentioned, but we've got Said Business School, the University of Gloucestershire, Department for Education, UCAS, UniQuest, Hartbury College, so lots of education brands on there. So, building your brand voice then. Can anybody tell me what a brand voice is? This is not a test. And any answer is a valid answer. So, does anyone have any thoughts about what your brand voice is? Anyone feel brave enough to share?
How you connect with your audience.
Yeah, brilliant. How you connect with your audience. Perfect. Anyone got any other thoughts around that? The values, brilliant. Values are definitely part of that. So connecting with your audience, the values of your brand, really, really important. What it goes beyond is it goes beyond your logo, beyond your colours, and beyond your font, for example. And lots of people, lots of organisations feel that if they've got their logos, colours and fonts sorted, they've got their brand strategy sorted. No, it's way deeper than that. As you've mentioned, the values, connecting with your audience, really, really important. So here I've summarised this, the consistent tone, style and personality that your school, college, university, organisation communicates across all channels. And this will help you be distinctive. So this is about you connecting with your audiences, but standing out in the marketplace for your own unique values and capabilities. It's about building recognition with your audiences, so they see your brand, they read your stories, they know it's you. And it's about building trust and creating lasting emotional connections. And I'm going to talk to you about the difference between emotional and rational marketing shortly, but another really, really important area of this. A brand is like a human. So when I first started this work, I found it really useful to think of actually the way we build relationships with brands is very similar to how we build relationships with each other. We look for certain qualities, and those qualities are different depending on who we are, but we might be looking to trust someone. We might be wanting to be inspired. We might be wanting to be informed, to make sure that they're credible and knowledgeable. If you think of your brand as a person, it suddenly becomes a lot easier to think about your brand strategy, because people will build relationships with your brand in the same way as they build relationships with you. So right now, as I've said, really crowded marketplace. Parents and students are more selective than ever before. You will all be aware of this as part of your business strategies and your activities. And education is beyond grades now. People want to know about progression, well-being, inclusion, real-life outcomes, and much more. It's not enough just to say we're going to get your young person, grade A's, or we're going to give you a first-class degree. Digital noise. We're faced with thousands, if not millions, of brands a day. How does a brand cut through all of that noise? How do you cut through to your audiences and say, hey, this is us? Because if people don't know about you, they're not going to choose you. The first step is that they have to know that you exist. So this is really important, and this is really important for all brands, especially if you are growing a brand, if you're sustaining growth. You might be launching a new service, a new product, entering a new market, or experiencing brand stagnation. I would say that if you haven't got a brand strategy, every brand needs one. Whether you need to invest in it as much if you're not growing, or if you're actually sustaining your market share, you're achieving your goals, perhaps your brand strategy doesn't need as much investment. But if you're not, your brand strategy definitely will need an investment if you haven't already invested in it. So, a little icebreaker. So I would like you to, and I'm going to give you a minute to do this, okay? I'd like you to think of 3 words, phrases, or themes. There's some examples on your sheet handout that represent your brand, okay? And before you start doing this, I want you to think about how can you make the combination of these 3 words distinctive. So every word doesn't have to be distinctive, but the combination of them, can you think about 3 words or themes that make your brand a bit unique? And can you also ask the question, so what, for students and parents? So your key audience may be the parents, it may be the students. You need to make sure that those brand words connect directly to what matters to your audience. So this is just a little icebreaker and just a little prelim to some of the strategy work we're going to look at to get you thinking about how we might approach a brand strategy. So I'm just going to give you a minute to do that. And then afterwards, we're just going to share with a partner. And then I'd love it if a couple of you would feel brave enough to share your outputs and sort of discussions. So now I'd just like you to choose a partner. It might be someone from your organisation, but actually it would be really great to maybe partner with someone not from your organisation. It might be someone in front of you or behind you. And I want you to have a discussion with this person. Could another school, college or university say the exact same 3 words or themes that you've chosen? If yes, your brand message isn't distinctive enough. If no, it could be. It could be the start of something really ownable and really successful. Does the brand language resonate with what your students or parents care about? So your key audiences, do you think it's going to engage them? And do you think there's a gap between what you've chosen and what people might think of you? Because often what we think our brand represents and is about, people don't actually think that. There's a big gap there. So I'm just going to give you another minute and maybe just have a little discussion with somebody else about your 3 words and themes, bearing in mind these questions. And then I'd love a couple of people just to share their insights. Okay, we're going to stop now. I know you've probably got a lot more to say, but we've got a lot to cover. So I'm going to stop now, but you'll have these slides and the handouts anyway, so you can continue this work. I'm going to be here in the break too. Does anyone feel confident enough to share what their words and themes are and some of the insights from the discussions you had with your partner? Yes. Yes, fantastic. We've got a microphone here, so thank you. There's no right or wrong. This is all about exploring and learning and
we've got like 3 words in the company because I think it's really important to define in 3 words.
Yeah.
We've got learn, motivate, accompany.
Learn, motivate, and
Accompany.
accompany. Okay, great,
Yeah.
fantastic.
In Spanish, it's different.
Great.
Sounds better.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good. And what about your discussions? Do you feel those words are unique?
I don't have enough time to discuss.
Okay, fine. What does everyone else think about those words? So we've got learn, accompany,
Motivate,
and
motivate,
motivate.
accompany.
We have 2 words with motivate. It's motivate and challenge.
Motivate and challenge. Great.
Sorry. Because we would like to motivate the students, but also the teachers.
Great.
But we do that through challenges.
Perfect.
So that's a little bit the idea what we do. And then we accompany the students and the teachers both through a path, the learning path that they're going through, but also the parents. So because we have a vocational training center, so also accompany the parents that they know that we're taking care of of the students.
This is the perfect example of something a bit, there's the start of something unique. You've got the motivation, you've got the challenge, and you've got the accompanying, the care, the learning pathway, the collaborative piece there as well. So absolutely brilliant, yeah. And this, you need a lot more time than just this. And I'll talk to you about a brand strategy in a minute and the time that it might take. But this starts to give a flavour of actually, do we have something unique? And sometimes through this exercise, brands realise, whoa, we actually don't have anything unique. We need to develop something as part of our business strategy. So this can be really important to inform your business strategy. Do we need to grow our student support more, or grow our approach to creative subjects, or be more challenging in what we do and challenge, think differently more? So it's really hand in hand with your business strategy. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to share? Yes. Great. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so I come from a private language school in Vietnam with about 4,000 students at any time. The school that I've been running for 15 years. 15 years ago, by accident, I founded the school myself.
Wow.
Yeah. So the name of the school is Gia Việt, which is Vietnamese family.
Yeah.
So the underpinning philosophy is to create a community that people feel like family members for both students and teachers. So the 3 words for me is the 3 C's, starting with the C's letter. The first one is connections, and number 2 is community-based, and number 3 is comprehensive. Because we feel like through language, we can help children develop comprehensively, not just with the language skills.
Lovely.
So that's how we see ourselves. Yeah.
Lovely.
Thank you.
So that's what I love that. It's really concise and really clear. And you see yourselves like that. Do you think that you're telling that story to your audiences? Do you think they perceive you in that way as well?
Yeah, after 16 years, somehow the community perceive in similar ways.
Yeah, okay. And your name, family, means family. This is great. Your brand name actually has a really, really strong meaning, which is fantastic. So, okay, fab. Thank you so much. Yes. Go on then.
My school is a thinker.
Thinker, great.
Thinker. And the motto is think differently, create a difference.
Great. So making a difference.
Yeah.
So really nice action-orientated words, thinking differently, making a difference, which is really great and really relevant to your audience as well. Do you think that you tell your stories in that way as well? That through your content that you create, you're conveying those messages?
Yes, we do.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's great. So I'm going to move on, but that gives a flavour of a very mini flavour of how a brand strategy might work. Now, I'm going to talk to you now. I'm going to give you a framework that I use in every single piece of brand work that I do. But before I do that, I'm going to talk to you about understanding your audiences, because this is such an important part of any brand or any business, in fact, any business or brand strategy. We often make assumptions about our audiences and we think that we know things about them, and often those things can be different. Plus, our audiences are changing all the time. We are such a fast-moving societies now. People's pain points, their challenges, their motivations, they are always changing, the channels that they use. So it's really important to regularly, I'd say yearly, if not every other year, refresh your audience profile data. Now, customer personas. Does anyone, has everyone heard of a customer persona, or anyone not heard of a customer persona? Is this a new concept to anyone? Fantastic. Does anyone have a set of customer personas that they feel confident about at their institution? No, okay, which is great, because not many institutions do. It doesn't take long to develop customer personas. And on your sheet, I have given you the key elements of a really strong customer persona. So you've got your demographics, your psychographics, behaviours, actions, pain points and motivations. These are really key for informing a brand strategy. And then you've got your technology and media use, and of course your visual representation. Now, it's likely for your school, college or university, you have multiple people creating content. You have copywriters, designers, you have marketing campaign managers, you have yourselves, people developing presentations, conversations you're having with your stakeholders. This is a really important and really useful piece of work to make sure that everyone across your institution understands who you're talking to and therefore can get the messaging right. They don't have to be complex, they can be really simple. And as part of this brand strategy work, I would recommend thinking about just one customer persona to represent a student or a couple of types of students and maybe your parent as well. You don't have to create anything like this for the brand strategy work, but it is really important to understand who you're talking to. And customer research, really important part of brand strategy work. I would always be saying to any organisation, must do some independent customer research, because we make so many assumptions about our customers that are wrong. I've done it in my career. And I've learned, especially as I've got older, and I'm more and more, there's a gap between my age and actually the audience of schools, colleges and universities, that my assumptions are often completely wrong, despite all the experience I've got, because our audiences are so different. So just a really important part of it there. And there's a useful resource that I've popped on the bottom of here. So I have put some useful resources throughout that you can use that really does talk through a really thorough customer persona model. And obviously this is something you can take back to your marketing teams and say, this is what we need to be creating. Okay, so this framework then, if you take nothing else from today, I would like you to take this framework back to your institution, because this is your brand strategy. And this is basically what you need. So surrounding your brand strategy are your values. We've already talked about values, and the previous presenter was also talking about values. These are really key to your brand strategy. And actually, a couple of you have just shared, as part of the icebreaker exercise we did, they will be your key brand values. Most brands have 5 to 6 values, key values, but they really are the heart of how you want to act as a brand and your key principles. So put your hands up if you have a set of brand values. Brilliant. Okay. And do you find them useful? Are they useful guiding principles? Are they used a lot? Yeah. Fantastic. Brilliant. Okay. So your brand values, I've put some examples on your handout here so you can go away and think about them. But you've then got your brand personality. So how do you want to be perceived by your audiences? So this gentleman from Vietnam, family orientated, wants to be perceived as very collaborative, community focused, supportive. Those would be all the sort of personality traits that you want to be thinking about, that character. If your brand's a human, what character is it? And I've got some examples in a minute. And then we've got the 3 areas here that are really, really important. We've got your benefits. What are the tangible benefits? Not just what you do. So we offer language courses, or we offer sports courses, or we help students think differently. But what's the benefit of that? We help students think differently so that they can create real impact in the world, so they can move into rewarding careers, so they can stand out from the crowd and get into their university, the university choice, or move into the career that they've always dreamed of. So always think about features, but your benefits. What are the actual benefits? And then facts, rankings, awards, league tables, case studies, any data that you have to back your benefits up, use it, get it out there. And I've got some examples in a minute. Make that key to your brand work, your brand strategy, because those pieces are the evidence behind your promise. You've got your proposition here, and I've got some examples in a minute. But this is, in summary, summarize your values, your benefits, and your substantiators into a proposition. What at the heart of your brand are you offering your customer? And this statement is your guiding statement for all of your brand work and all of your marketing work. And then here you have an essence, which is your brand's true character. And this is like a strap line. This lady over here, what was your name? Sorry, Think Differently. Yeah. Aitul. So Aitul was talking about think differently. So what was it? Think differently and create impact.
Yes.
So this is your essence. This is your brand essence. It combines your values and it's a strap line. And this piece here could be a really important part of a creative campaign. So if you want to go out with an advertising campaign, you want a slogan for your website, actually, if you can summarize your brand in a few words, you've got it there. Okay, and ChatGPT can be really useful for this, by the way, just as a hint. But this is about building perceptions. So obviously customer research is a really important part of this. So you want to do a custom piece of research first. Then you also, once you've developed this, want to test this on your customers as well. Okay, we've taken what you think, we've developed our brand strategy, have we got it right? And test it. And obviously, as you're rolling out campaigns and your marketing activities, that will give you data as well about, is this working, is this not working? And you can test different variants as well. This is very useful when connecting with customers. I've always mentioned allowing designers, copywriters, marketers. Everybody is a brand ambassador. Somebody from your school or college might be in an elevator and someone might ask them where they work and what they do. If they have something like this, and this in their mind, they're going to be conveying the right message about your brand, okay? So you're helping people, you're giving people resources so they can promote your brand. You have to make sure that all elements are authentic and distinctive. As I mentioned earlier, nobody likes to be sold to anymore, and people are really quick at seeing through false brand promises. What you also don't want to be doing is making your marketing really amazing before someone gets there and almost telling lies or exaggerating. Someone gets to your school or college and is let down. You get bad customer reviews. They have bad customer experience. So it has to be authentic and reflective of how you want to be perceived, and emotive and compelling. Emotional versus rational brands then. Anyone got any thoughts about the difference between emotional decision-making, rational decision-making? Anyone know anything about the psychology behind, yeah?
I just wanted to share something. As a school, we talk to parents and we talk to students as well. So our approach to students are much more emotional than rational.
Yeah.
And when I talk to parents, it tends to be much more rational.
Absolutely. The really great example. That's a really great example there for anyone that didn't hear it. What's your name? Raphael was saying that for students, they're more emotional with their branding and their messaging, and for parents, a bit more rational. And why is that, Raphael? Do you sort of have an understanding of?
As teenagers, and then they're basically not equipped with the necessary cognitive skills to be evaluating if that product or that service will aggregate value.
Right.
Whereas parents will have a much more straightforward conversation about what you're offering and what the outcomes will be.
Yes, they want more rational information to reassure them. They have different values, don't they, as well? Anyone else got any thoughts about emotional and rational branding or emotional and rational advertising? Okay, so up to 95% of purchasing decisions are driven by emotional processes, not rational thought. Now, this does not come from, this is a piece of research from 2003, which is quite a long time ago, but there has been countless studies since that back this up, that we make decisions based on emotion. No matter how rational we think we are, our decision making is driven by emotion, and many of us are really unaware of that. And this is something that I'm really passionate about myself, and I try and bring that emotion into all of my campaigns because it works, okay? If you can drive people's emotions, they become loyal to your brand a lot more quickly and a lot more strongly than if you've got rational content. This is an IPA data bank, so basically advertising campaigns, there was a competition and campaign strategies were evaluated. Emotional campaigns and combined campaigns were successful. Now, this is across all sectors, not just education, but you can see the data here. And as Raphael just said, my approach in education, because we're targeting parents and young people often, it's a high investment decision. It's not a quick, snappy, oh, I'm going to get this Apple iPhone or I'm going to buy this latest gadget on Amazon. This is a high investment decision. So actually, a combined approach to your campaigns will be the most effective. Unless you have a specific audience insight that says the emotion is stronger. But from all my experience working in universities, schools, colleges, the combined approach is better with an adjusted weighting based on parents or students. So a couple of examples here. So can anyone tell me if that's emotional or rational? Rational, perfect. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and what are your thoughts about these two? What kind of impact do these have on you when you read them?
May I?
Yeah.
The first one would be the preferred one when parents are enrolling for the first time. So I would sit and talk to them about what I'm offering. But whereas for re-enrollment, they already know my service. They've been in a journey for some time. Yeah. So I would tend to use the second one, which is basically grabbing them by their hearts, by their feelings. Grabbing them by hearts. So that's a really good point. Actually, the type of content you deliver might be different as people move down through your sales funnel, which I haven't covered in this presentation, but you've got brand awareness at the top, that's where you need emotion, and you've got purchasing decisions at the bottom, and that's where you need more rational information. But I'm really happy to talk to people in the break about that. ChatGPT and me developed a version that is a combination. So there's some rational, there's some emotive, combined. Okay? So I've got a couple of examples here just to zip through. So this school, the essence of this school is inspiring creativity and building growth. And their values are supportive, respectful, creative, community and growth. Their personality is very, very similar. Their reasons to believe, they've got awards, rankings, case studies about growth and successful futures, parent and student testimonials, really important part of marketing. And then you've got their proposition. So this is quite a short proposition, but this is an example of what might come out of your brand strategy. So we nurture creativity and confidence in a supportive community, empowering every student to thrive and achieve their full potential in learning and in life, okay? We've then got second school, transforming futures, that's their essence. And they're much more about excellence and innovation. They've still got some shared values with School One, which is fine, but actually they've got a bit more focus on excellence, progress, achievement. They want to be seen as more ambitious and forward-thinking, inquisitive and bold. So that's their personality. That's how they want to appear to their audiences. Reasons to believe are very similar, but their core values will underpin their case studies.
And then their proposition: we cultivate scientific brilliance in a world-class academic environment, inspiring students to push the limits of possibility, transform ideas into impact, and lead the discoveries that will shape tomorrow. Very different proposition, okay? Neither one is better. This one, to me, is more powerful. But neither one is better. It's just different audiences that they're speaking to, okay? So, consistency then. Clarity and consistency is a really important part of your marketing and brand strategy. And it's also something that a lot of brands miss. They are sending out content about all these different things. They don't really understand what messaging they're giving their audiences. So key messages are a really important part of any brand strategy. So alongside the examples I just showed you, developing a set of key messages for your brand, 5 or 6 key messages that you want to communicate consistently to your audiences, really, really, really valuable. These messages can then be your content pillars. So you can evaluate every piece of content against your key message. Does it fit into one of these key messages? If not, it shouldn't be published, okay? Unless there's an exception. That way, you're not going to tell the world everything and anything about you. You're going to tell the world specific things that matter to you, that reflect your values, and the world is going to understand those things very clearly and very definitely, okay? If you're trying to be jack of all trades, tell everyone everything everywhere, you're going to get lost. You've got no brand character, and you're not standing out from any other schools or colleges, and you're not engaging a target audience specifically, okay? So key messages are really, really important. I've put an example here. You'll get the slides afterwards, but this is for school 2, actually. The world-class academic environment. I talked about Ofsted Outstanding, so there's a reason to believe in that, a substantiator in there. Exceptional student experiences, inspiring teaching, first-class support. Every student is encouraged to aim higher, develop new skills and confidence to succeed in life. So just a few examples there to get you thinking, and I put a few more key messages on there too. But I'd say no more than 5 or 6 key messages per brand strategy, really. That's ideal. You can also start measuring content based on that if you're using the effect of content. So you could compare content that's within this content pillar with content that's within this content pillar. Which one's resonating with your audiences better on social media? Which one in your email campaigns gets more clicks? And you can start then producing more of that kind of content. So you've got a structure to start measuring the impact of your content. Okay, so I'm going to do this section and I'm going to leave the final section because we've overrun a little bit. I'm just going to give a few really quick examples and hopefully answer a few questions. These are all English curriculum. We've got some time.
Got 5 minutes.
Perfect. Thanks, Ed. Great. Okay, I'll slow down. These are all English curriculums, but I've deliberately didn't want to use any other websites. I don't want to showcase anyone or judge anyone's website in a negative or positive way because it's always a work in progress. Wherever I've worked, it's always a work in progress. But here you can see this brand, the American School of Dubai, future ready. Very innovative, forward-focused, but they've also got established in 1966. So they're trying to tell the world we've got legacy, we've got history, we're credible, but we're also innovative, okay? And they've got a really quite interesting picture going on there as well. This is really nice on their homepage. Simple, but it shows their values. Why choose them? And they've got some lovely pictures, key values, and you can click through on the values that you might be relevant to you and read about that. Again, a great place to start thinking, which one's getting the most clicks? You know, who's landing on my homepage and which one are they clicking on the most? Well, perhaps that's one we need to develop more content about as part of our marketing strategy. This is Westbourne School. They've gone for a very bold approach, fluorescent video, big ideas, infinite possibilities. That's very emotive. And I'd say possibly a bit too emotive. But, you know, it does stand out. And as long as they've got stuff on their website to back it up, well, they're using these stats really high up on their website. So it's saying we actually do have credibility. They also have got a clear proposition on their homepage as you scroll down. And they target parents specifically where your child thrives. And they've bolded key things here. So as you read down, you're skimming, very clever, because it doesn't necessarily look tidy and amazing, but actually when you're reading that, you're drawn to these bold pieces. That's their key messaging. A happy school for life learning. So this is a very different kind of brand here. Person-centered positive actions, lots of really strong messaging. Oxford Uni, so they don't need to do too much with their brand. They are world leading, obviously, and I had the benefit of working for them, which was great. But they very much focus their website on thought leadership, which they should. It's all about academic credibility. They're academically world leading institution. And then we've got this one I really like. I live in Cheltenham, which is in the Cotswolds nearby. And this is Cheltenham Ladies College. So they say this is CLC. They've got a lovely picture of a thriving student on there. A message from their principal talking about it's about the person you become as you gain your grades. So they're hitting that point there. They've got their proposition as you move down on the homepage as well. And it's really well thought out, really strong messaging. Harvard do the same, welcome to Harvard proposition. And University of Essex, they've gone with the rankings. Now this is quite a bold approach because if they're not ranked highly next year, they've lost their whole brand strategy. So if you are confident of being ranked really well in rankings consistently, or at least over the next 2 or 3 years, go for it. But if you're fluctuating in rankings and you're not sure, then I would be a bit cautious about this approach. And I'd use this as your reasons to believe. So this is your proof that you're world leading, but I'd start with a stronger message and have that as your evidence. And as you gain confidence and you start to be ranked consistently, brilliant. You can start, like Oxford, world leading university. They've been in the Times Higher Ed #1 for 14 years or something. So they can confidently use that. So that's just a little bit of an example. Now, the next few slides, I'm not going to go through now. This is just a very simple structure about storytelling, how you tell a credible, engaging story. And so you'll get these slides. 3 stages, talk about the challenge, the journey, and the transformation. What's the results? Very, very, very simple, but a bit harder than it looks. I've actually written an example here as well for a young student. And I was going to run an activity for you to develop your own story with your own hook. What I'd suggest that you do, though, although we won't do it now because I prefer to take some questions, is maybe later on today, on your way home, have a go at this. I think it'll do 2 things. It'll really start you to think about the structure of a story, but also really inform you about the work involved. It's not necessarily a 2-second job to create a story about a student. You have to have the right information to start with, but then you do have to think about the structure of that story and what channel you're sending that out on. You might need 6 different versions, one for a prospectus, one for a website, one for a social post, one for Instagram, one for Facebook, and actually it's quite a lot of work. But this would be a really nice draft for, I thought, just a little exercise for you to have a go at. So summary then, brand voice is about shaping perceptions. You must understand your audience. You must define your brand with a clear brand strategy, and you need to be clear and consistent with your content through key messages, okay? And use compelling stories to connect. So what would be really great is maybe think of one thing now or later that you might go back to your institution and do. And it might be just going and having a chat with your marketing teams about developing personas. It might be saying, hey, let's learn more about this brand strategy wheel. And it might be just, can we look at our content pillars and key messages? Or can we think about telling our stories in a better way? But just think of one thing from this presentation and maybe just take it back to your institution. And don't forget, we're all on a journey. So this is, no one's got it right. And when you have got it right, your audience change and you've got it wrong and you've got to redo it again. So even a small step in the right direction is a really, really positive step. And it really is an ongoing process. It really is. And it's an investment, but it is really worth doing. Every campaign that I've worked on and every brand strategy that I've pulled this work into has succeeded. And, that's for universities and colleges. Every single one has succeeded and won awards. It's a really worthwhile piece of work and something that I really recommend if you haven't already touched on, really going back and doing something with. And that's it. So thank you.